I read 7 books last month, including this last one, which was my 1300th book ever since I started counting way back in 2014. There's a story behind that that I'll get into later, but it doesn't feel like I read 7 books last month. Like I feel like I spent way less time reading than I normally do. Now, a lot of these books are quite short too. One of them's I think less than 100 pages, and then there's books like this one, the second one that I ripped through. I think I read it in about 4 sittings or so. It's just compulsively readable. In that sense, it doesn't feel like I spent a whole lot of time reading. But I'll just jump right into the first one. It's called How to Make a Few Billion Dollars by Brad Jacobs. And in case you're wondering, he made his few billion dollars in the most boring way possible, or one of the most boring ways possible. He owned a waste management company, and then he bought a bunch of smaller waste management companies, and then combined them. And he also bought this construction equipment rental company that was valued at a whole bunch of money. And so, like, these are boring businesses, but they're immensely profitable, right? But he says in the book, so much of success in business comes from keeping your head in a good place. And that's true regardless of whether you want to build some billion-dollar conglomerate or just build a lifestyle business that supports the life that you want to live. So much of your success is going to come from just being in a good place and just having that clarity and being able to take a step back and a step up as well and have that sort of higher, wider perspective and the peace of mind to be able to really see all the pieces as opposed to everyone you're competing against who's, distracted, unfocused, pressured, all of that stuff. So if you can, sidestep that and like do whatever it takes to sort of maintain that, and you're just going to have such a big advantage. And that's immediately applicable to my business as well. And I found a ton of great stuff in this book, and it's not long. I think it's like 150 pages. You can read it like in not that much time, and if you're into business, it's definitely worth reading. And so the book that I ripped through, my friend Nat Eliason wrote Crypto Confidential this year, and it reads like a novel. I mean, he is the main character of this thing. The subtitle here is Winning and Losing Millions in the New Frontier of Finance, and you really, for one thing, you learn a ton about crypto and everything like that in the book, but you don't sort of get the sense that you're being taught. You're learning without feeling like you're being taught something, like he's a teacher standing up in front of the class. And it's just like I said in the beginning, I ripped through it. He and his wife were expecting to have their first baby, and he was kind of looking for ways to make money. So he's kind of finding out a little bit about crypto, and then he sort of stumbles into this sort of friend group of people that made tons of like stupid money in crypto. And he's like, how did you do it? And then he learns a little bit more about it, and he sort of gets deeper and deeper, and gets in on the ground floor of this crypto gaming company that ends up with a market cap in the millions, and the high stakes of that, and dealing with scammers and investors and just like the whole volatility, and learning about this entirely new world that he's just entering, and all this sort of pressure at home. And it's a highly readable book. It's like a novel, except it's not. And so that was the second book that I read last month. And so most of these books I read on my phone, right? So this next one is called Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones. And to be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about the guy. I know that he's a successful sales trainer, and this book has been recommended to me numerous times. And when I say numerous, I mean dozens of times probably. I've seen it everywhere on Instagram and elsewhere, and I never read it until now. And again, this is another super short one. It's maybe 90 pages or something like that. You can read it in a day, and it's really one of the I don't want to say one of, because you've got books like Influence by Robert Cialdini. I think that's a better book than this, but this book isn't trying to be that book, right? It's more of a handbook of power phrases and sales advice that you can use, pretty much the next time you're in a sales conversation or some sort of persuasion situation, and like anytime that you need to win somebody over to your way of thinking. And he provides all these sort of like magic words almost for doing that. One word that I've decided to use a lot more is imagine. So when you tell someone to imagine something, they see the picture in their minds of what you're trying to get them to imagine. And when they see it and when it's more real to them, it's more persuasive, right? So when you can sort of future pace something that I try to do when I'm writing sales copy or what have you, you paint a picture in their minds with words, with what you're saying, of their desired future state, like what their life is going to be like once they become a customer of yours, or they take the action that you want want to take. So you say, imagine, and then you lay it all out for them. And that's a very persuasive way of going about it. So, for example, my private mastermind group, it's called the Competitive Advantage. And so that's where I teach creators how to add at least $1,000 a month to their revenue and, blow up their personal brand and become, famous on Instagram and Twitter, YouTube, and things like that. And so it's a paid group, and one of the things that I get people to imagine, get prospective members to imagine is what their life would be like. I get them to imagine that they have 100,000 followers on Instagram, that people are paying attention to what they say when they're generating all of these sponsorship opportunities, when they have a business that supports their lifestyle, that they don't have to spend all day working on, that runs in the background, that earns them money while they sleep. Like, these are all very powerful images, and so I try to do that as well. And the book is just full of these phrases and words that you can use. Another super short book that I read last month is called The 21 Success Secrets of Self-Made Millionaires by Brian Tracy. And I've been reading Brian Tracy's books for years and years and years, and he's just made a tremendously positive impact on me for the last decade. I've read, I mean, probably at least 10 of his books. Million Dollar Habits is really good. The Science of Money, a whole bunch of books. Maximum Achievement is really good. That's one of the first books that I've read of his, and he's been around forever. Like, this book came out in 2000, I think. It's been around for a long time, but it's still definitely relevant. And it's a tad bit dated. Like, there are going to be references in here that don't make complete sense anymore, but it's still absolutely worth reading. And he says things like this: whatever you think about most of the time grows and increases in your life, which I found to be so completely true. And it ties into not this next book that I'm going to talk about, but the next book after that, and the message in that book. And it's just, Brian Tracy, I can't say enough positive things about him. And if you've never read anything by him, he's just, definitely just prioritize his books, and especially in the areas of personal development and business and making money. Like, prioritize Brian Tracy's books. The next one was an audio listen for me. It's called Day Trading Attention by Gary Vaynerchuk. And again, I will listen to or read anything that he puts out. And this one especially, so I would recommend going with the audio version, because he reads it, and what he does is he goes off, on tangents basically, or he'll go off script, as he says, and he'll insert something useful or relevant or interesting, sometimes all three. And in the time between the time when the book went to press and the time when he's recording the audio version, like, things have changed, because it's a book about succeeding on social media, and that world changes very very quickly. And so if he forgot to add something to the book, or something comes up to him like while he's reading, he'll stop the audio recording and say, okay, so going off script here, and then I'll go for like a minute, and he'll tell you something that's also super helpful that you just won't get in the physical book. So definitely recommend that. And basically the main idea behind that is, day trading attentions. You have to basically go where the attention currently is if you want to succeed on these social media platforms. So, very briefly, back years ago, when TikTok was just taking off, if you were early getting there, then you stood to gain a tremendous amount of visibility, sales, brand awareness. And if you were there, actively posting on TikTok when the attention was there, when the attention was moving there, then you put yourself in a position to win. So day trading attention is basically taking a look at the general social media landscape and seeing where the attention is going, and making sure that you're there, that you're posting on those platforms, and that you do it natively and effectively, persuasively. And the book's all about that. It's super tactical, and it's really good. Like I said, I will listen to or read anything that he puts out, and so day trading attention is really good. And the next one after that is also an audiobook listen, and it's called Zero Resistance Selling by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And so if you've read Psycho-Cybernetics, one of my favorite books of all time, you'll know how important the self-image is to your success, basically the results that you see in your life. And that ties into what Brian Tracy was saying earlier. And Maltz was a plastic surgeon in the 1960s, and what he saw was that, when his patients, like, he would fix their outer blemishes, if you will, but the way that they saw themselves was the exact same. Like, fixing them on the outside did nothing for their sense of self-image or sense of self-worth or their self-image. And basically, the conclusion that he came to is that if you have a picture in your mind of what you're capable of, what you should reasonably expect, then you will fall to that level, regardless of whether you temporarily gain some sort of victory. A friend of mine, Dan Martell, he was messaging me the other day, and he told me that you'll never earn a penny more than you believe that you deserve. And so it's the exact same thing, right? And so zero resistance selling. It's obviously a sales book, but it's so totally valid and useful for for basically anyone. And this audio version that I listened to was the updated version, and it's co-authored by Dan Kennedy, whose books I've just binged for the last maybe 2 years. Like, I'm on my way to reading every single book that Dan Kennedy has ever published. And so he was one of the co-authors of this one, and same with Matt Fury, and I think a couple of other like big name copywriters. And they co-authored this book, and the updated version of this book, and it's really good. Which leads me to my 1300th book that I've ever read since 2014. It's this one, and it's called The Wealth Money Can't Buy by Robin Sharma, who actually grew up about 3 hours away from me and ended up going to the same university as I did, Dalhousie University. And he's just widely popular writer. He's sold tens of millions of copies of his books. And again, like, I will basically read everything that he puts out. I didn't even, I barely I glanced at the Amazon description, before buying this book. You know what I mean? So, like, I knew that I was going to buy it because he wrote it, regardless of what it was about. And but again, I was not disappointed. So he goes into the 8 forms of wealth: physical wellness, of course, and growth, your craft, money, like financial wealth for sure, and like all of these things, right? Contribution. And so it's basically a series of mini essays, and some of them are less than a page long. Yeah, I think the longest mini essay in this book is maybe 3 pages long, and they're sort of mentoring messages, is what he calls them. And so they're super short. You can read maybe a little bit of this book every day, and that wouldn't be the worst idea. So those are the 7 books that I read last month, and in my next video, I'm going to cover the 20, yes, 20 books that I'm going to read in August. Now, I'm cheating a little bit, and you'll see why if you watch the video. And I've also already finished one of those books, so I've got 19 books left to read this month, and so that'll be the very next video. But I also take notes on every single book that I read. I've been doing that since 2014, and I have a very precise and simple, like, easy to use system that I use to take notes on more than 1,300 books over the last 10 years. And in this video right here, I explain my system in depth and show you exactly how you can use it and implement it. Basically steal this system. It is very, very simple, easy to use, and you'll be able to remember a tremendous amount from what you read. So thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one, and always remember, bookmarks are for quitters.
Waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating. Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable.